Lu Fan, Uncle Tu, and Elder Han's grandson were still sitting there. Lu Fan explained his entire plan to them in detail. After hearing everything, a smile appeared on Uncle Tu's face. He said, "Lu Fan, if you have such confidence in your plan, then we will support you too." Then, turning serious, he added, "How long can we keep hiding and waiting for the enemy to wake up? If the world is to be saved, someone has to take the first step." Elder Han's grandson also stood up and spoke in a firm voice. "All right then, I am in on this plan too. As long as the Dragon Empire exists, I will keep fighting for it. If I were to back down, my grandfather would never be proud of me." After discussing the matter at length, the three of them divided their responsibilities. First, it was decided that Yuzhan, Elder Han's grandson, would be stationed at the forefront to confront the attacks by the demons. Meanwhile, the Dragon Capital's army would be tasked with monitoring the secret zones and perilous territories inhabited by powerful fiends and high-level beasts. Uncle Tu also determined his role. He would travel to Dragon City to inform the three elders about Amari's plan and at the same time begin investigating signs of the ancient gods awakening across the world. A short while later, Lu Fan stepped outside and began talking on the phone while walking. The person on the other end informed him that there had been no response from the United States yet, and most other nations were unwilling to help either. Moreover, some countries had even accused China of attempting to interfere in the affairs of other nations. Lu Fan was not particularly surprised to hear this. It was as if he had already anticipated that things would turn out this way. He surmised that the United States was likely preoccupied with the chaos caused by the ancient gods of Mount Meru and simply had no time to attend to other matters. These thoughts brought Uncle Tu to mind. He now realized just how much effort Uncle Tu had put in. Lu Fan let out a soft sigh. "It doesn't matter," he said to himself. Lu Fan decided not to pressure anyone. Whenever those ancient gods awakened and the situation became too dire to manage, they would come seeking help themselves. The matter could be reconsidered then. Lu Fan didn't want to waste a single moment. He immediately raised his hand and gave the command, "Zhao Ji, come out." The very next instant, Zhao Ji appeared before him. Lu Fan was about to upgrade its class. Meanwhile, at the training grounds, Zhao Xingming was overseeing the practice session. He issued an order. "Jiang Fangyuan, Zuo Jing, go and inspect the creative formation prepared by the principal once more." Both officers immediately bowed their heads. "Understood, Principal Zhao." Just as they were about to leave, they spotted Lu Fan approaching from a distance. Their faces lit up with delight the moment they saw him. "Hey, Lu Fan," one of them exclaimed excitedly. "If you're here, does that mean you've completed your 4th class upgrade?" The other officer standing nearby laughed and said, "Don't you know? Lu Fan has already reached the 4th tier." At this, everyone's eyes turned toward Lu Fan. Lu Fan smiled and nodded. "Yes, the 4th upgrade has been successfully completed." Then he spoke respectfully. "First of all, I've come to thank the principal. Without his recommendation and assistance, I might not have achieved this milestone." Saying this, he glanced at Zhao Ji, who was standing beside him. "And the second reason," a faint smile played on his lips, "I've come to upgrade my dragon's rank." Hearing this, all the officers standing nearby grew intrigued. After all, Lu Fan's dragon was already extraordinary. If its rank were to increase further, just imagining the boost in its power stirred everyone's curiosity. Upon hearing Lu Fan's words, Zhao Xingming and the other officials present exchanged glances. Zhao Xingming asked in surprise, "The principal? But the principal is away on a mission. He isn't at the academy right now. Who told you he was here?" Lu Fan was slightly taken aback by this. He had assumed he would find the principal at the academy, just as usual. Some of the officials standing nearby also looked puzzled. Meanwhile, a flurry of questions arose in Lu Fan's mind. "Senior is away on a mission too, and Auntie and the others are nowhere to be seen." His brows furrowed. Have they all gone to fight the beast tides? The more he thought about it, the more he felt that the situation outside might be far more serious than he had anticipated. But just then, his attention was drawn to Zhao Ji, who was standing beside him. She was standing there with a peculiar pout on her face. Usually, anyone would be excited at the mention of a dragon class change, yet there wasn't a trace of joy on Zhao Ji's face. In fact, it seemed as though she had absolutely no interest in the entire process. Lu Fan was surprised to see this. "What's the matter?" he asked, leaning down. "Don't you want a class upgrade?" Zhao Ji turned her face away. Her behavior was so strange that Lu Fan realized there was likely something else weighing on her mind. When Lu Fan mentioned that Zhao Ji wanted to change her class, an official standing nearby laughed. Are you joking? Only humans can undergo the class change ritual. I've never seen a pet change its class. Lu Fan replied calmly. I'm not joking. Xiaoji herself told me she wants to change her class. Hearing this, the official's eyes widened. Wait, what do you mean? Can she actually speak? Lu Fan remained silent, but Zhao Xingming understood everything. A faint smile appeared on his face. It seems that during his 4th class advancement, Lu Fan gained a power that no one had ever even imagined. Then, looking at Lu Fan, he said, Go ahead. I don't know if this platform will work for dragon pets, but there's no harm in trying. Lu Fan nodded. At his signal, Xiaoji nimbly stepped onto the platform. Then, smiling, she said, I'm ready. Hearing her voice, the officials standing nearby were stunned once again. Many couldn't believe their own eyes. Just then, someone in the crowd whispered, Stay quiet. We might be about to witness history in the making. The very next moment, a beam of golden light descended from the sky and struck the class change platform. Boom! The entire area was flooded with brilliant light. A few seconds later, a massive explosion occurred, and the platform shattered into pieces. Smoke billowed everywhere. Everyone held their breath. As the smoke slowly cleared, Xiaoji was still standing there, and an aura far more powerful than before was radiating from her body. Zhao Xingming watched the scene in disbelief. Unbelievable, he murmured softly. I never imagined that a pet creature could change its class just like a human. Lu Fan also appeared satisfied. The experiment had been a success, but then a new question arose in his mind. He looked at the shattered platform and thought to himself, if the platform was destroyed by just a single class change, then how will my other dragon pets undergo their class changes? A look of slight concern appeared on his face at the thought. After all, he possessed not just one, but several dragons, and now the question of their future loomed before him. Seeing this scene, Zhao Xingming fell silent for a moment. Then, a smile spread across his face. So, Lu Fan's dragon can choose a class just like a human? He said with a laugh. That is truly amazing. He looked at Lu Fan and continued. Don't get me wrong, Lu Fan, but I am genuinely happy for you. Just then, Xiaoji came running over happily and threw herself into Lu Fan's arms. Lu Fan smiled. After all, Xiaoji wasn't just his pet dragon. She was his first companion, having stood by his side through every arduous journey from the very beginning. At that moment, a status window opened before him. Xiaoji's new class was displayed, Class Mage. Her strength, agility, spirit, stamina, and magic power had all seen a massive boost. She had also gained several new abilities. Lu Fan carefully read through the details. The more he read, the more astonished he became. Among the new abilities, she could summon starlight-like energy and manipulate gravitational forces. Interesting, Lu Fan thought to himself. He became eager to test out these powers as soon as possible. Just then, an official standing nearby asked curiously, Lu Fan, what class did your dragon end up with? Can you tell us? Lu Fan smiled. Certainly. Then he suddenly asked a question. Have you ever heard of Master Tian Yun? The official's expression changed the moment he heard the name. Of course I have, he replied immediately. Master Tian Yun is an incredibly rare and secretive class. Ordinary people can only choose it after their 5th class advancement. He paused for a moment, then turned his gaze toward Xiaoji. Slowly, disbelief spread across his face. Wait, you don't mean to say that... Lu Fan nodded with a smile. The official's eyes widened. Impossible. He obtained a class like that on his very first class advancement? Everyone standing nearby was stunned. They finally realized that Xiaoji's class change hadn't merely been successful. It had yielded a result the likes of which perhaps no one had ever seen before. The official gazed at Xiaoji for a moment. Then, with a faint smile, he looked at Lu Fan and said, Lu Fan, looking back now, I can't fathom how I ever dared to challenge you to a duel. Back then, I had absolutely no idea of my own limitations. Lu Fan smiled. It's all right, that's all in the past. Then, turning serious, he added, the real credit goes to the people from the Fangyun Pavilion who stepped up to help during the battle. Just then, Zhao Xingming stepped forward. Lu Fan, you have quite a few dragon pets now. Eventually, they will all need to undergo a class change. He glanced at the shattered platform and said, Don't worry, I'll have a new class change platform ready for you within 3 days. Hearing this, a weight was lifted from Lu Fan's mind. That had been his biggest concern, and he bowed respectfully. Thank you, Principal Zhao. You always look after every detail, big or small. After chatting a while longer, Lu Fan prepared to leave. As he was leaving, he smiled and said, "I'll cover the cost of the damaged platforms. See you in 3 days." With that, he left the area with Xiaoji. On the way, Xiaoji said dejectedly, "Master, that platform was very expensive." Lu Fan looked at her and smiled. Then, he said something that left Xiaoji speechless. "No matter how expensive it wasn't more precious than you." Hearing this, Xiaoji's eyes lit up, and a smile returned to her face. Meanwhile, after Lu Fan had left, the officials began discussing among themselves. One of them took a deep breath and said, "The world is truly vast. There is always someone who turns out to be more talented than us." The other official spoke up excitedly, "I'm just waiting to see what forms Lu Fan's other dragons will evolve into." Just then, the person standing next to him laughed and clapped a hand on his shoulder. "Brother Jiang, stop daydreaming. We still have a mountain of work to get through." Just as Lu Fan was leaving the academy, his phone rang. It was a call from Elder Han's grandson. After exchanging a few words, Lu Fan asked, "Do you know where the Dragon Capital Academy's support outpost missions are currently taking place?" Elder Han's grandson replied immediately, "I'll send the location right away, but be careful. That area is prone to severe storms and floods. I've heard that the principal himself is commanding this mission." The location arrived just seconds later. Lu Fan saw that the place wasn't too far away. He smiled and said, "Come on, Xiaoji, let's go find your senior, and oh, we need to track down Auntie and the others too." Xiaoji nodded happily and followed him. However, all along the way, she kept repeating the same thing. "Master, I'm hungry." Meanwhile, conditions had become dire at Outpost 63, located in the north. Soldiers stationed on the walls suddenly spotted dark shadows in the sky. When they looked closely, the color drained from their faces, and it was a swarm of terrifying butterflies, and this time their numbers were many times greater than before. "They're back!" a soldier shouted in panic. Within moments, chaos erupted throughout the outposts. The soldiers grabbed their weapons and launched a counterattack, but the swarm was so massive that the sheer number of them was terrifying. The butterflies breached the walls and descended upon the soldiers. Screams began to echo. In the blink of an eye, many soldiers fell victim to their attacks. But just then, a soldier stepped forward and shouted with all his might, "Hold your ground, no one retreats." He hadn't even finished speaking when a flash of light suddenly appeared in the sky. Everyone's eyes turned upward. A massive ball of fire was hurtling towards the earth from the distant sky. Boom! The very next moment, a tremendous explosion rocked the area. Flames erupted and spread in all directions. Thousands of butterflies were incinerated in an instant. A massive crater formed at the impact site. Hope returned to the soldiers' eyes. It didn't take them long to realize who it was. "Guardian of Flame!" Someone shouted in delight. Two figures emerged from the smoke, Lu Fan and Xiaoji beside him. Both were hovering in midair. The sight of them agitated the entire swarm of insects. Xiaoji stepped forward. A golden glow appeared in her eyes. She raised her hand toward the sky. Meteor shower. Suddenly, the sky turned red. Countless fiery meteors tore through the clouds and rained down. The spectacle was so terrifying that even the soldiers were stunned into silence for a moment. Lu Fan immediately issued an order. "Everyone, get inside the city walls, now!" The soldiers scrambled to reach the safety zone. And the very next moment, the entire battlefield transformed into a sea of fire. Meteorites were slamming into the earth. Lava was erupting. The ground was splitting open in places. Each explosion was more devastating than the last. The massive swarm of butterflies stood no chance against that destructive downpour. Within minutes, the sky was clear. Where a swarm of millions of insects had been hovering just moments ago, now only ash and smoke remained. And witnessing all this, a single thought crossed the minds of the soldiers at Outpost 63. Lu Fan had become more powerful than ever before.